screws loose, they done stripped the bolts on them. Shoulda never sent them to pick up the work for me. Sprayed the park and had my shit inside the car. Marcus Smart Boy was shooting with a 36 on him. Said if he wasn't in the rush, they was all goners.
All right. Greetings, Chudlings. Welcome to another episode of Chuddy's Corner. It is Sunday, May 18th, special bonus edition. I'm your host, Dugouts. With me, as always, is King Chuddy. We're here to break down a little bit, a couple days removed from the end of the season. Took some time to kind of let things settle. We'll talk a little bit of Celtics, some of the news that's came out since then, some of the exit interview stuff that came out. We're also going to preview the conference finals for you. Those are set. We have the Thunder Timberwolves on one end and the Knicks Pacers on the other end. So we're going to get into a lot of different stuff for you guys. Thank you for joining us, Chud. Here we are, a couple days removed. Like I said, how are you feeling right now?
Feeling better, I guess, with some time to process it all. Still stings. Still going to take some getting used to. Conference finals, not being a part of it. Never easy, never enjoyable. Certainly not what you want, but again, had a little more time. Not as torn up in the moment as we were the other night, I guess, right after the game, and come to terms with it and ready to move forward.
All right. Yeah, I guess I kind of feel a similar way on the whole thing. We mentioned it on the show the night of. The absolute shit pumping that we took definitely made it a little bit easier just to kind of stomach the whole thing. With all things considered, Tatum out and all that stuff too. So, but I kind of, it was odd. The day after, I sort of felt almost like a weight off the shoulders. I know you mentioned it a little bit on the show where it's like for 3 or 4 years, it's feel like it's been this full tilt, just like we have to just be fucking winning always. Like we're done because we used to fuck up. We're done doing that. We turn around. We got the banner. And as much as it sucks that the season ended and that it ended as early as it did, to the team that it did, to the way that it did, from losing Tatum straight on down and getting our asses kicked, the next morning it was just kind of like one of those things where it's like the guy who wakes up after retiring from being a CIA agent. You're just kind of like, wow, it's like the world's still spinning, and it's almost like no one even noticed that I'm not there anymore. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know if I explained that right. I was trying to put it in a tweet form. Yeah. The only tweet I could think of to describe it was that, that gif that's Tony Soprano kind of walking and smiling a little bit. That was kind of how I felt the next morning, where it was just fuck it. I don't know. Just the new day, I guess.
Yeah, it is. It's interesting, and it feels like it almost started really the second the Tatum injury happened. I feel like that weight was kind of lifted, because I feel like even watching games 5 and 6, I didn't feel the same type of borderline heart condition type levels of stress and pressure during the games. It felt like even where I was all right, I hope we win, obviously, and I was still freaking out during the games, but something was just a little different, where it felt like even with that, everything had changed and the weight of each game was gone. And again, before that, it felt like the way you're consuming it almost changes, where to a certain point, I think we especially got there before we won the title, where it was we weren't even enjoying the games and the wins. It was more just a sense of relief. It was just we have to do this now, and anything but doing it is just something we can't even face. That kind of possibility. That went away, and I think it was a big talking point of ours, honestly, all season long, how we were saying we were able to enjoy things so much more now that they had done that, where, regular season, great games that we lost in years past would have killed us, and now we're able to enjoy these and be oh, that was a great game, so much fun, blah, blah, blah. So I think there's some of that to an extent, of course, but a lot more than before we had won it. Getting the ring, getting the banner changed a lot. And
Banners
I think a lot
fly
of that,
forever.
Exactly, and it made everything a little more palatable throughout the entire year, made it all a little easier, and I think that was even kind of the case with this playoff exit. As bad as it was, as demoralizing as it still was something about it had changed, and it wasn't that sense of relief with each game. It was I was actually watching them, enjoying them, hoping for the best, hoping for the wins, and losing. As awful as it is, it's the immediate thought is well, thank God we did it last year.
Right. Oh yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, this is a totally different episode if not for last season. That's the ultimate copium, like, and because it's still, I mean, we're technically still the champs too, so it's still, it's like a nice feeling,
True.
right? Like,
for sure.
But, and like, to be clear too, for anyone who is listening is wondering, like, what the fuck? Like, why aren't they? I'm fucking pissed we aren't still playing. Like,
Absolutely.
It's not, this isn't to say that it was like, you know what? Whatever, guys. Like, who cares? Like, it fucking sucks ass. I wanted the repeat bad. And we all did. And even if Tatum didn't get hurt, the way that series was going, like, if we had lost with Tatum in there, it would have fucking, I'd be way more pissed. I think, like you said, we didn't want to give up all hope when Tatum went down, but everyone had in the back of their head that, like, it's going to be a lot harder. And then now, you know, we obviously have some more news that comes out. We'll get into that, you know, probably in a few minutes with Jalen, where it's kind of like everything I start to see now and hear now, it's just kind of like behind the scenes, there's so much more shit that was going on with the team that we just didn't really know. And not necessarily like bad, like chemistry issues or things like that. It's just like, these guys are fucking worn out. You know, they've played a lot of basketball over the last 3 or 4 seasons, and, you know, mix in the Olympics and stuff like that. And, you know, even, I don't know, people are going to say, oh, Tatum didn't even play in the Olympics. He still fucking traveled to France for like 3 weeks during the summertime. Like, it's still just a lot.
For sure.
It's not an excuse. It's not like me saying that I'm like, okay, that we lost. It fucking, again, it pisses me off. But it was just a weird feeling the next day. Like, I would have, if you had told me at the start of the season, you're going to get eliminated by the Knicks in the second round, I'd be like, I assume I'm catatonic at that point. Like, I'm just totally fucked. Yes, but I don't know. It just it didn't feel the next day the way I thought it would have felt. And I don't know if it's a Tatum injury or just a whole bunch of different things. But
I think that's definitely a big part of it.
It sucks though.
It does suck. I think there's 2 ways to look at it, and I think they're both fair, and I think they're both accurate. I think the first way is that it is extremely disappointing, and it's a huge wasted opportunity, because all the things that we're about to talk about that are true at the end of the day, like, this East was ripe for the picking. It was right there for the taking. We still, even despite some of the issues, especially until Tatum went down, had the better team. And straight up, like I kind of said in the moment last game, I'm sure when you look back 10 years from now, when people look at this series, they'll be like, oh, that's the series when Tatum tore his Achilles. That's how to be remembered. But, like, to me, the series was lost really in games 1 and 2, and especially game 1, just, like, letting them, even giving them that sense of belief, where the first 2.5 quarters was like, this is playing out exactly how we think it's going to be. We smoked them all 4 times this season. We're smoking them again right now. There's nothing they can do. And we just let our guard down, let them off the hook, couldn't make a shot. And I think they just got that belief, like, we're on their level. We can compete with them. We just did it. And then to compound it by choking again in game 2, it's like, that's where the series honestly came down to.
That is,
obviously. But it really, I don't know that it'll be remembered that way, but that really was it. And that's where it's so frustrating, such a huge blown opportunity. And part of it is obviously guys who weren't fully healthy playing to their potential, but I think it's more than that. And I think all of that is a result of just how hard this whole process is. So that kind of brings me to what I said was the other side of it, where you have to look and say, this is why it's so hard to win even one championship, why you can't take it for granted, and why officially now with the Nuggets losing today, that means this year will be the 7th straight year with a new different champion. That's never happened in the league before. This is what they wanted with this parity. I think it's great for viewers, casual viewers for sure, and for fans that, you know, obviously don't just want to see the same few teams win every other year, but I feel like every year a team wins and we're like, oh, like, is this the new era? Like, the Bucks could be a dynasty here. Then it's like, oh, are the Nuggets going to go in dynasty?
It's supposed to be us.
Right, the Celtics, like, are we going to go in dynasty run? It's like,
all right, now I don't feel so good anymore.
But no, I think you should feel good, because I think this is how it's supposed to be, and that's why it doesn't happen. It is so hard, where it may look simple, but every single year we convince ourselves that, and we forget, and then things happen. And like you said, first it's one injury here, this guy's sick, this guy's worn out, we're shooting 10% worse from this spot. Like, it just takes so many things to all go right to make it through what has become just a physical gauntlet, a war of attrition year after year. And it's really just about kind of getting back at it, giving yourself the most chances, and hope that 1 or 2 of those times you break through, the breaks go your way, you get that title, which, again, thank God we did last year, because it just goes to show, like, sometimes the breaks don't go your way, and that's what happened. Yeah. And as much as we blew it and created some of that luck, we didn't get any luck to go in our favor either.
Yeah, I think that, you know, that speaks to the difficulty of it. I do think, to your first point, again, despite the holding it together, not feeling so, it is just a huge missed opportunity, and it's one of those things where we're able to right now in this moment hold on to the idea that we'll be able to get back, we'll be able to do another one. But I mean, for chuddy heads out there that are our age or older, it's like, we do remember like the 08, that ended up being the only championship. And that was a team that was that was good enough to win multiple, that had an opportunity to win a second one where they were in the finals. The 09, obviously the injuries happened and that kind of screws things up. Mm-hmm. But, so it's like, you really do. It's so not promised. And I think obviously with the benefit of hindsight, it's easy for us to look back and now and be like, yeah, no, I mean, it probably was a lot harder than we were giving it credit for. I don't regret at the time feeling like we're going to fucking do this, like, just like, because we're that much better than everyone. Because I do think we were, minus, probably OKC. That would have obviously been the big, but it just doesn't make a difference. It doesn't change anything. Just going out there and being the best team doesn't do it, because if that was the case, we'd have more repeats and it wouldn't be a different team every year, like you said, for the last 7 or 8 years. And it kind of, the NBA has had this issue with parity for so long, or at least this perceived issue with parity. I bet you there's still a lot of people now that feel like, oh, same few teams win it, but like you said, it's not
the case at all.
It's not the case right now. Yeah, it's a great era for just like NBA fans and for the league and stuff like that. Obviously, if it ends up being like Pacers Timberwolves from like a marketing standpoint, like the NBA might be a little annoyed. We would like that. It'd be a great matchup. And we'll talk about that stuff.
To me, that means the NBA sucks at marketing is the problem. Because
well, we already know that's well established,
right? But it's just again in no other. I feel like obviously there's always a thing of like if it's New York, LA, like cool, but it's not a big deal if it's two awesome teams with two awesome young superstars. Like if you can't market Anthony Edwards on the team owned now by like A-Rod, then like that's a problem. You know what I mean?
Well, and honestly, I probably just kind of played into that like
trailer park in Greenland, like
Whoa, shout out. Greenland shots, ricochets. Shout out to the Greenland Chuddy heads. I don't know what Chuddy's talking about. I probably just like played into the fact that the NBA is the only sport when when a matchup happens, the first thing people think about is like those markets aren't big markets. Like I don't think any other like sport has that issue. So my bad for even playing into that.
Right.
We'll talk more about those matchups though later on. We're gonna do some conference final stuff. I don't know if you have any just kind of general thoughts on the series, if you want to get into some of the news and some of the sound bites that were coming out from the exit interviews, obviously the big Ramona Shelburne article, things like that. So you got anything else just on season reflections? We're going to do a little bit more in the offseason about like where does the team go from here. I think we're still a little too raw, still a little too many things shaking out to get deep into that. But do you have anything season-wise, reflection on the season?
I mean, a lot of reflections on the season, and I think more will come when it's even less raw than it is now, but I don't want to let, like, this obviously very disappointing result skew what was still mostly a good season. Winning over 60 games again, extremely impressive. What'll certainly be another first-team All-NBA for Tatum. Sixth-man of the year for Pritchard. He really established himself. Obviously, Kornet coming on, establishing himself. Even Keita, we forgot about coming out of nowhere, establishing himself as an NBA player. Saw nice stuff down the stretch from Shireman. Walsh, I thought, had some moments. So a lot to be excited about. A lot of things moving in the right direction that I think we wanted to see. And just kind of sucks with the way it ended. I think especially, obviously, with Porzingis. But even beyond that, I mean, simple things like Jrue shooting, being the best in the league last year at corners threes, this year being 35%, like a 10% dip, just little things like that they all kind of add up. And again, those are the margins right now where the NBA, every team is so talented that, dipping 10% in one spot like that. And then one of your other guys who you rely on is sick and can't play. And suddenly it's like, that is all it takes to make the biggest difference. So
yeah, the inches we need are everywhere around us.
Yeah. And I also, I was looking for it. I pulled it up, just going back to that ratings thing. A friend of the show, we both follow on Twitter, Trill Withers, had a great tweet today about that. He said, let me look up the market size of each city to see how excited I can be for the remaining playoffs. And then he quotes me, can't wait to check the TV ratings to decide if I enjoy the basketball or not for the next couple of rounds. It's like, why does anyone care? Is so fun.
That's such I do love that. I hate when people send like, oh, ratings are down. It's like, whatever. I watched it. It was fucking sick. I don't care if some dickhead down the street missed it. He's an idiot.
Right. Yeah. It just makes me feel bad for more people.
My neighbor missed out on the sick NBA game. Like, his loss.
And like, what person even deciding to watch basketball is like, yeah, I would watch the NBA Finals if a team from like a big market was in it, but like, I just can't get interested in the way they play basketball up in Minnesota. Like, I don't know, what is that even basketball? Like, I don't know. Like, they even have hoops.
That's fair.
It's just absolutely insane. But.
All right. Well, yeah. So yeah. Well, I mean, we'll kind of keep kind of picking away at the scab, obviously. But like I said, I think my big takeaway is just that as like upset, and as much as I feel like they blew an opportunity here, it's a missed opportunity. There's no other way to say it. The fact the banner's still flying from last year, it's something to still cling to, still feel all right about. And this was just they came up short from the goal. A lot of stuff the players were saying, we'll get into like afterwards, kind of was like, God damn it! Like I want to be pissed at you guys, but then you're saying like the right shit. Like Horford's like we let the city down. I'm like, oh, like, So they did, but I'll forgive them and I'll be all right. I think. Anyway, all right. Let's talk a little bit of some of the news that has come out since the elimination game. Since the apocalypse. The first one, the biggest story, Jaylen Brown was playing with a slightly torn meniscus. That's sort of been the knee injury, I think, for a while. We thought it wasn't. It sounded like it was like a bone bruise. So that's pretty big news. Recovery time on that. If it's a partial, it looks like it could be like maybe like 2 months, so around that time. If it's a full tear, it could be a 4 to 6 month situation. Obviously, we'll wait to get a little bit more on that. We love to play doctor. We did a little bit last week with Tatum, but that's kind of what I was looking at before. That it's kind of if it is the partial, it can be a little bit quicker. But a couple thoughts on this first. If anyone's like upset that they feel like they're being like lied to by Jaylen, I saw a few people like specifically like reporters like, well, he was telling us this all year, and now it turns out it's this. Like, what the hell? Fuck off. Like, I think that's just like so lame. You're the hometown reporter. Like, who cares? Like, you should have reported. You should have figured it out yourself. You're just mad that Ramona Shelburne scooped you, probably. But secondly, I mean, credit to Jaylen for playing through that. I think mentioning it. I don't know what the NBA rules are or whatever. So that's like a whole different can of worms. But it's like, whatever. If it doesn't need to be mentioned, who cares? And what a gamer for him for still just playing through that. I mean, that's not a partially torn meniscus is not anything that's like easy to do. I mean, isn't that what Embiid missed like a shitload of games for?
Yeah.
Right. So he's doing that. He had that play diving out on the floor. To me, the man was drafted, and he said he's going to going to war for the city. He did that in this series, and obviously we came up short. It sucks. He didn't really play great in some of those games. We talked about it on the podcast, but just to still be out there with that injury, you got to tip your cap to him. It's not an excuse. If you're out there, you should be able to play. It's not an excuse for the bad play, but it is a reason to step back and be like, this guy's the fucking man. Like, he's at least put it all out there for the team. So what are your thoughts on the injury? What are your thoughts on him, first of all, playing through it? And then let's get a little bit into like what this might mean for next season, depending on the time it takes to recover.
Yeah, so in terms of playing through it, I mean, we obviously knew he wasn't 100%. I mean, I think in the last episode, I think I even said at one point, I'm sure we'll get a Jaylen like bomb to do with his health. I didn't think it was a torn meniscus, but we all knew like something was going on. So that's the other thing too, where if you want to get into it, like, should he have said more, this, that, and the other? It's like, at the end of the day, they're still saying he had a knee injury, and they were making it known that he was on a minutes restriction and stuff, and he missed 8 out of the last 15 games. Like, it wasn't like they were hiding an injury. So the fact that they just didn't specifically say what it was, I don't even know. I mean, in terms of what you're talking about, like, obviously getting fined for the NBA injury report, but it's like, if you're listing him questionable knee, and then he sometimes plays, sometimes doesn't, I don't know. You know what I mean?
There's
like, and all those, also, if anyone cared, they could be like, oh, well, we just found out yesterday, like it was a torn meniscus. We thought it was a bone bruise.
That is one of those things too, where it's like, don't MRI it. We don't know.
Right.
Feels like a torn meniscus, but no. Maybe it's not.
So in that sense, like, it's whatever. And obviously he's a warrior for playing through it, which we already knew. And I mean, that game 5 performance was epic. So a lot of credit there. That was fun. That was one of the silver linings from these playoffs, I guess. If there was one.
That got us through. I think that made the elimination a lot better.
Needed
just having that one game where it's like, okay, we still had some fucking heart.
That was awesome, and that was one of the better games of his career. The playoffs, honestly, he was incredible. So knowing that he was doing that on torn meniscus too is just super cool. In terms of what it means, it's scary. Obviously, torn meniscus, as you just said. Anytime you're saying this is what Embiid has, that's not what you want to hear. When it comes to health, that's certainly never a good sign. So obviously, very different players and injury histories and stuff like that. But my first thought, almost beyond that, was like, oh, is this the first little first little piece of thing they're dropping as to the potential of Brown and Tatum both kind of being out, and then suddenly is it like, all right, now are we stealth tanking? Is that because this would be a big step in that direction if they rule it's going to be a long recovery and they kind of ease him back, and then it's one of those things where then he never really comes back, and suddenly it's like a full rest year for both guys. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if I could see him necessarily doing that, but I could see not a Derek White. Oh, Jesus Christ!
Well, if you're gonna do it, you kind of gotta.
Well, yeah,
all the way into
Derek White, your floor is still like 40 wins,
right?
No, I do think that's kind of an interesting point, because if it is the full tear, it says I'm saying 3 to 6 months. So even if, let's say that it's the full 6 months, and let's say he doesn't get it did he already have the surgery? Or they don't know if he's going to have. I think they haven't said anything. I haven't
seen an update.
So he hasn't got the surgery yet. Let's say gets it maybe in June. That puts him at 6 months, the longest recovery time, back around like December, January. To me, I couldn't see him like doing what you were just saying, where it's like, oh, it's still a little flared up. I could see him maybe trying to get out there, but it depends on where the team is, what the team's doing
also,
too, obviously.
Let's make it clear. It's 100% going to be the team telling him to do that. It's not like the player is going to be like, I don't really feel like playing. I'm sure Jalen's going to want to come back. This is going to be a sit-down with the team of him, probably Tatum, Brown, Stevens, whoever else, Missoula, sitting there and being like, hey, guys, this last few months has sucked ass, but like the best thing we could all do now, take the extra rest, get more than 100% healthy by resting longer than you both need to. Don't rush back. We'll shut everyone else down. It'll be the main Celtics out there for the rest of the season, and we'll get a top 5 pick next season, and boom, we'll be right fucking back.
I just don't know with this roster if they'd be able to get that bad, even with those two.
No. I'm not saying they should do that or even could do that. I'm just saying if it goes down, it's going to go down like that. It's not. I want to make it clear, like it's an organizational decision that they're basically mandating the players do that. I'm sure.
I guess I was more saying like
they can play, they're going to want to. It's going to be more of like, what's in the best interest of the Celtics? Okay, let's all just do that.
Yeah, I mean, I guess obviously the team tells them to. I still, for some reason, I just always still have it. Like I had the KP like telling the coach to put the other guy in. I just have an idea that the players walk in like, put me the fuck in. I'm playing. But you're right. It's probably the decision. Probably the team. Probably something that would be discussed by a few different levels of Celtics management. I would say
a little more.
Yeah, it's fair. It's a fair point. But yeah, so we'll obviously keep an eye out for that. Credit to Jalen again for playing through all that shit. But it's scary. It is. It's kind of like. But also, if you're gonna look at it, if the Jays are gonna get injured, I guess I'd rather them be hurt at the same time. I guess if you have to. Yeah.
I suppose.
All right. We got a couple other different kind of sound bites from the like I said, there was a lot of different. To me, that feels like that happened faster than it has in the past. The exit interviews, but I guess they're always the next day. But it just felt too soon in the time. Like I would like some of the stuff out here, but then I remember I'm still mad at them for losing, so it's kind of weird. We can talk about some of just kind of those like kind of cheesy team sound bites later, but I think two of the big things were some of the Jrue comments and some of the Al comments. So Jrue, talking a lot about wanting to be back next year, thinks that the window is still open for the championship team. He's obviously been one of the names thrown around a lot because of his value on the trade market as a guy that could be moved. So that's something that should be interesting to kind of take a look at. The fact that, obviously he's going to say that. He's not going to say, well, yeah, I'll probably be out of here next year. But it's definitely still something to look at. Then the other thing is Al. Al kind of, I feel like we all were sort of sure he'd be back. But the answer this time was like, spend some time with my family, think about things, talk about things. So it certainly doesn't sound like as much of a foregone conclusion as it was with Al. So bring it back to Jrue for now. Do you think the Jrue comments is just kind of like saying the right thing at that moment? Or like, is there a way that this can happen again next year with Jrue still here? Obviously there is, but do you think that's likely?
Yeah, well, I think, first of all, it's like, kind of what else is he going to say? He has 2 more years left on his contract. It's not like he's a free agent and someone's like, do you want to be back? It's like, what's he going to go up there and be like, no, like, I'm definitely getting traded. Like, so I'm sure he would like to be back. And also, that's the other thing. Like, it's, there's no bad blood. Like, I think in a perfect world where there weren't these CBA situations, yeah, like they probably would more or less run it back. Honestly, I think you'd look around and be like, the East is still fucking ripe for the taking. Like, when we're healthy, we're still just as good as everyone. If it was just a matter of making the money work, I think it's probably worth doing. And, like, certainly Jrue wouldn't be one of the guys you get rid of. Like, he's overpaid with what he does now, but he's obviously still a very important part of the team, very good player. So, yeah, I mean, if there was a world where you could keep him, of course you'd want to, and I think, of course, he would want to. I think it's a great role for him, too, like, where he doesn't have to do too much on offense, and he can really just kind of load manage himself and focus on the things he's good at, where in most situations, making as much as he does, he'd probably be relied on to be at least a top 2 or 3 guy on a night-to-night basis for that team to be good. So it is kind of a perfect situation, but it's not like they don't restructure contracts like that. It's not like he's going to take less money.
I literally had just written down in my notes, restructure. I was like, I got to ask him, does the NBA do, like, you know what, fuck it. I'll make $2 million this next year.
I wish, but no, that is not going to happen.
Fuck.
So again, it's just it's
right,
more
so
likely
that off the list.
That he gets traded, but we don't know that. So as of right now, he's under contract. He's on the team, and unless something changes, that'll be the case. I think they'll try to trade him. I think there will be a trade market. Another thing I think that's important to point out is all the tax penalties and all that is all based on where you end the year. So obviously, like, the most commerce usually gets done during the offseason, but like the Celtics technically have until the end of next year to get out of the aprons or wherever they want to get to. So they could even technically carry the whole team into the season and just be like, we'll see what happens, and we're going to deal someone at the deadline. So again, there's so much to get into.
Well, hold on. Let me make sure I get that right. So you're saying, like, whatever the penalties are for this year have already been established. So it's like we couldn't trade Jrue this offseason and not have those penalties on us this year.
Right. But once the league year flips, then, like, they don't get assessed. Like, we talk about a team like, oh, they're in the second apron. Like, obviously we knew the Celtics were in the above the second apron this season, and that wasn't going to change. But it can change, like, you see a lot of teams on a smaller scale at the trade deadline will make little moves. Usually it's not like jumping like a Jrue Holiday, but usually right at the trade deadline, there will be at least a handful of teams that, they need to cut like 2-3 million that they've just kind of been carrying, and realistically the trade deadline's the last chance. So it's risky because obviously you don't know what's going to happen at the deadline, and I mean it's especially risky when it's a guy with a $30+ million salary that you suddenly then have to dump. So you basically lose any semblance of leverage you ever have if the entire league knows, like, all right, you have one day to get this contract off your book.
Like, especially
a situation. But I'm just saying they can technically go into the season with guys, and that doesn't necessarily have to be the final product in terms of determining what, the tax penalties and all that are.
Okay, yeah, because I do sort of think that might be a nice idea going into the season, see how the things are going. If Jalen's back and Tatum's recovery is going well, then maybe you say, you know what, fuck it, we're running. But like you said, the other risk there is if things aren't going well and everyone realizes they just are trying to get rid of Jrue to get under the apron, like, here's a fucking second-round pick or something, like, that could be. I know you love I don't mean no disrespect to second-round picks.
Whoa. Second-round picks are...
But yeah, that's interesting. I didn't know that, so that's kind of a cool piece of info that it's like, they don't need to do everything before the season starts. So that's all right. That's interesting.
And especially, too, I think the biggest goal is to just get under the second apron is, like, goal number 1. And that's, I think, 19 million or something. So it's like...
So that can be just one of them?
There are ways they do a lot of these roster maneuvers, and Jrue is on the team. Like, it's not insane. We all kind of think it's a foregone conclusion. Not necessarily. They could move Porzingis and Hauser as his deal kicks in or something like that. Like, there are other ways to kind of get to the money required. So I think it's partial lip service from Jrue, but I also think it is genuine, and I have no reason to think that, again, if everything wasn't able to work out, I'm sure both sides would be more than happy to run it back.
Yeah.
But
Hauser's got the extension kicking in $10 million next year for Hauser.
Right. So Hauser and Porzingis, that's $40 million out the door.
I don't want to lose Hauser.
Again, I don't want to lose any of these guys, but I'm just saying, like, no matter what, there are some options, and it's not just like, okay, these guys are automatically gone. So
I think we've all kind of just no one really wanted to look too like much into this stuff during the season because obviously we're thinking about the season. It's like I don't want to talk about losing these guys, but yeah, I think it is the one thing I've kind of learned talking with you and stuff like that, and looking around the league is that it's not as cut and dry what they may or may not do. I think we've all been like, Jrue and KP are gone, and then we're back. Like you said, there's other small things to get just under that second apron that could happen. So I wanted to ask you too about Al, though, Al's comments. So
Definitely.
Again, this is kind of like, day after things happen. They just lost. I think if you asked him the day after the finals, it'd be a different answer, obviously. But what do you think with Al? Does this change your thoughts on what he might be doing, or is it just kind of reading into things?
No, I think it definitely does. I mean, I think last year he was almost scoffing when they were asking him about retirement. You just got that sense after the finals last year where he was like, retire? Like, he was almost like offended by the question. Like, why would you even ask me that after what you just saw? This year, definitely a bit of a different tenor. Like, even the fact that he's saying he's going to go take some time is just very different. And I mean, let's face it, this year did not really work out the way anyone wanted it to. He actually had to play more minutes this season than he did last season. And you saw in the playoffs, he wore down. He wasn't his typical awesome Al self. He was still, solid, but he didn't give us that boost where he can rise to another level. So I think that's natural wear and tear. He is sadly getting older. He's going to be 39 next year. I mean, that's crazy old. So, and then again, the prospect of going at it now with no Tatum, maybe no Jalen too, what we're talking about. Like, again, at what point does it almost just make sense? And as we talked about kind of the dream scenario the other day, where maybe it's a soft retirement and it's a wink, wink, we'll see you in a few months or next year or whatever. I don't know. Gosh. I mean, he's not going to be young and able to play like this forever.
I'm just picturing like Michael Jordan that first year he came back in between the two dynasties. Yeah. Obviously, they didn't win that year, but
and he wasn't 40.
well,
but yeah,
I more just meant like how cool that moment would be with the first time, like Al Horford.
Right, of course, yeah, I certainly hope it's not the last we've seen of Al. But I mean, I think I would have it would be hard to hold the decision against him if he did decide this was as good a time as any to retire. Because I mean, obviously he's not the one who's hurt and recovering, but it does just feel like a long road back to competing for a championship. And if he's not competing for a championship, then it's kind of okay. What am I doing?
And do you think he has a chance he plays somewhere else besides here, or do you think it's retirement or here? I think it's retirement or here, but
I hope so. I certainly hope so. It's hard to say, I guess, but
yeah,
there could be an opportunity or two, but I think it would have to be like a perfect situation. But I'd say
I just feel like there's no other team.
Celtics are bust.
Yeah, there's no other team that's just like a clear if I go there, then now we're. Yeah. I mean, except for like OKC, but I don't think he's going back to OKC.
No, I doubt it.
Not for just not to be like a mercenary, All right. Yes, let's little Jrue, little Al stuff. Porzingis too. Kind of had some eyebrow raising comments. Obviously, we know how his season sort of ended with the team. Mentions that he's going to be playing for Latvia in the Eurobasket tournament this summer. I think I've been pretty easy on KP. I think a lot of the shit talk about him is unfair. I think he's still a good player. Obviously, the thing going on that made him look really, really bad. But after that, after being so winded and knowing that that's why you were bad, you just can't say anything about playing in the summer. To me, that's like a dude. Fuck. All right, I can't. I'm trying to help you out. You're trying to stop everyone from beating up your boy, and then your boy just says fuck you, and you're like, all right, just go get him, I guess. Well, I guess I wouldn't do that to you, but not my boy. But it's it's just all right, KP, I've been trying to keep the Wolves away, but what are you talking about Eurobasket after all this? Come on.
So first of all, I didn't hear the comment or know that he even said it, or if this is just a report from some other time.
You just said it to me in the notes.
No, but it just came out, but I don't know if it was a matter of in the interview someone was like, hey, you had committed to Latvia before, are you still planning to play? And maybe he's just yeah, as of now, I'm still planning to play. I don't know that he went out of his way to make it a thing or whatever. I also think in terms of where we're at, this is great news. Hopefully he does play, and hopefully
looks good.
I mean, I can't really get worse, right? So the fact that he is confident he'll play, hopefully, in a few weeks or months, whatever, when that is, I think that could potentially be the best thing for anyone involved in the situation, is if he plays for Latvia and even has one game where he just looks good would be enough to be okay, he's clearly not just hasn't lost his powers to the Monstars. In terms of trade value, I think that would be pretty helpful for his expiring $30 million deal. If we do want to move that, which I think we will, it would be nice to not have his lasting memory of playing basketball being what we just saw in that Knicks series.
Yeah, I'm trying to find like the exact quote. I can't really find anyone with like the quote of how he says it, which is certainly a little bit
and I
eyebrow
think
raising
he
to me.
committed to it earlier.
He already
too.
did. Yeah, that's what I've seen. Is he already had committed?
So if he was decommitting, that would be more concerning because it's like, Jesus, dude, like you just have no faith that you're ever going to be better. You know what I mean? So it's almost like better, I think, that he is doing it, unless it obviously turns into an even bigger disaster. But at this point, I'm not sure how it could get a lot worse.
Yeah. He revealed that despite undergoing numerous medical evaluations, doctors have yet to definitively diagnose the illness. However, that period of rest might be short-lived. He announced his intention to represent Latvia in the upcoming tournament next summer. Yeah, it doesn't really have a quote. It's kind of, this article kind of sucks anyway.
Yeah. So
yeah,
interesting.
So yeah, we'll see. But I guess that what you just said is a good point, because it's like what it does seem like is he had already committed to it a while ago. So if it was kind of like still planning on doing that, and he's just kind of like, yeah, I want to be out there with my team, and now it's like, oh, Porzingis is fucking committed to it. So could be a little bit of shoddy journalism.
And
going
if he
on
said
here.
No, it would be
that'd be worse.
Like, whoa, okay, something like really wrong.
Yeah. Fair enough. Fair point. All right.
Hopefully an opportunity for him to.
I'm back to hold the Wolves back a little bit. I'm going to hold the Wolves back a little bit.
Good showcase opportunity.
Yeah. No, that's a great, good spin. All right. Anything else? Just in the last couple of days, anything news-wise that's come out that you wanted to get off your chest? Any final thoughts before we get into these previews?
I don't know if this is news-wise, but I was listening to the Hoops Collective with a good friend of the show, Brian Windhorst, and the boys. And I thought it was interesting. They were giving Luke Kornet some love. And I think Windy mentioned that, in a way, it was bad because Kornet might be playing himself into too big of a deal that the Celtics can't keep him. And Bontemps, the smug little prick who we love, was making some coy comments being like, oh, I'd be very surprised if Kornet, leaves there. Let's just say, he really likes it there. So I don't know what that means or if he has inside information, but it got me fired up that hopefully Luke just wants to stay no matter what on a hometown deal. He was talking about him being the next Scal of the Celtics lore, and that he had a position lined up that was going to be bigger than basketball with the organization.
I mean, I'm okay with that.
Totally.
All of that. I honestly, Kornet being a free agent sort of snuck up on me. For some reason, I thought he had one more year in his deal. So that to me does terrify me, and I hope he gets paid what he deserves. But I would love if he just got paid a hometown deal by us and then got paid what he deserved for other stuff. We need to get NIL going for him, just to keep him here. Get him a nice contract with the Celtics on the books.
Right.
But then, what do you know? Halftime Pizza suddenly has a $40 million NIL deal for him. And
no, but it honestly is perfect because Luke should be in every local act. He's the perfect local athlete.
It's crazy.
For every local act. Well, maybe that's the what we get going this offseason. Get a bunch, double his salary with all the sponsorships that he can get around the area. Because
all over the Morgan and Morgan
himself. The ads will write themselves, and we've seen he's a great actor.
Yeah,
it's kind of a no-brainer.
I think that Derek White Tommy Award video kind of put him on the map.
Yeah, I would hope so.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because Luke, I did have that in my notes that I wanted to ask your thoughts about if Luke was coming back. So good little insider info. Hopefully, Bontemps knows what he's talking about. Although Windy, I feel knows what he's talking about. So I don't know. It's tough.
Windy wasn't saying that wasn't going to happen. He just didn't know.
And did you see the clip of Windy too, getting chirped by the Knicks fans, and then someone showed him he was on an ESPN show 5 minutes forward, and he was like, yeah, I just gotta walk back to my hotel room. I should be fine. And then he just absolutely got fucking dude. Knicks fans are fucked.
Yeah. Well, I was also gonna say that just looks like the person doing it just looks miserable. It's why would you do that to Windhorst? And Windhorst, it also seemed was actually trying to be chill, just walking. It was down to talk to the guy and was gonna do an old interview.
No, yeah, I thought he handled it great.
Oh, fuck you, whatever. He it was how do you feel? Windhorst was about to actually go back and forth, which is sick. And
what was he mad about? That he picked the Celtics?
I think so. That he just said, giving them no chance.
It's so dumb.
Yeah, it was bad, awful look. Obviously, unsurprisingly, Windhorst is the man. And I was watching that. That was the same show that I was referencing, the Hoops Collective, live right after the game, and they were talking about the scene out there and how he had to walk back. And he's like, I'm just going on 5 minutes to my hotel.
It's a long walk. All right, let's preview some of these. Or you got anything else before we do the previews?
No, I think that'll do it.
All right, perfect. Before we preview, we're going to take a look at the Western Conference Finals, Eastern Conference Finals, give you some thoughts. talk from a Celtics fan perspective, who we think was probably who we'd most like to see in what order. Obviously, Celtics notwithstanding. Before we do that, though, let's pay our bills. Special thanks to our sponsors. This year, too, we're going to have Chuddy's Corner all year round. All year round, Chuddy. Obviously, we're going to work on getting a final schedule out to you guys. There's no we do after every game. When there's no games, we got to figure out a new way to schedule ourselves. But shout out to Mario's Roofing. Shout out to Nick Moreno. Been supporting us all year and now all off season too. So special gift for the Chuddy Head. So this episode of Chuddy's Corner is sponsored by Mario's Roofing, Mario's Siding, Mario's Windows, Mario's. You just got to call Mario's. At Mario's, we pride ourselves on quality, safety, and value. We wouldn't do anything to your home that we wouldn't do to our own. So call Mario's today. Ask them about their summer specials. Tell them Chuddy's Corner sent you. You can get $50 off your installation. Give them a call at 781-344-2420. You can also visit mariosroofing.com. Mario's Roofing, we won't soak you in order to keep you warm and dry. Special little Mario's tip, too. I had a Chuddy Head, long-time Chuddy Head, reaching out to me. Had Mario's Roofing at his house, I think yesterday, Saturday. The guy had a drone. They did like a drone, like an HD drone camera, like the roof. Like they had the drone up there checking all this shit out. Like it's pretty fucking high tech stuff. And the best part about it too is that was not being passed on to the consumer one bit. So wow, Mario's gets it done. You don't need, sometimes you get a roofing guy who goes, yeah, those shingles look fucked. Nope, they're getting up there, they'll figure it out. Drones. So if you like drones, if you don't like drones, they can probably leave the drone at home too.
I don't even know if I'm pro drone or not.
Yeah, wait. Halfway through, I was like, but if you're getting your roof checked out, you want the guy climbing your roof, falls through, then your roof's really fucked. That's an old scumbag roofing guy trick, I think. Get on the roof with a ladder, smash a hole through it, and go, yeah, see, there's a hole there. Now with a drone, you know you don't have to worry about that. Yeah, you know that trick is Mario's can't do it. So give them a call. Mario's. You got to call Mario's. 781-344-2420. You visit mariosroofing.com. Anyway, our other sponsor. Why don't you go ahead and hype up Nick a little bit. Nick's probably got a drone. Realtors do. Does Nick have a realtor drone?
If he doesn't, he should. He probably will too. But we're
we need a Chuddy's Corner drone too. Just because.
Yeah, I couldn't agree.
If both our sponsors have a drone, we should have a drone.
It only makes sense. Okay. So we're
of
course talking about Nick Moreno Real Estate, our good buddy Nick at nickpirano.com, nickpiraino.com, home for all of your real estate needs, buying, selling, whatever you want. You get a great personal experience with Nick. I think that's one of the most important things, and one of the things that stood out to me when I worked with Nick is how much he treats you like, someone he truly cares about, much more than just a client. It's a personal relationship. You feel like he's in the trenches with you. The communication is nonstop. It's exactly what you'd want. He's going above and beyond, and you really feel like, he's making decisions as if he would with his own property, and that's really all you can ask for in that difficult field. So we trust Nick. We trust him because he's a Chuddy Head and a Celtics fan too, and I can confirm that I've talked to him since the last game. Did a wellness check. He is in good shape, as good as he can be, because he does truly die hard with all of these games. I know he's looking forward to this pod and a lot of pods all through the offseason to kind of get him through, keep him going. I'm sure we'll get him on the show again at some point. We just love him.
Ask him about his drone.
Exactly. So that's why Nick is the official realtor of Chuddy's Corner.
Yep. And again, shout out to those sponsors. They just love Celtics talk so much that it's all year round. They said, boys, there ain't no more off season.
No off season.
Get back at it.
It's true. No off season in the NBA.
Yeah. So yeah. Like I said, we're gonna work on kind of doing the schedule. We'll probably take a little bit of time off. We'll do something definitely before the finals. Kind of give a finals preview and stuff like that. So just keep an ear out. Make sure you're following us everywhere. Subscribe to the podcast. The best way to never miss an episode of Chuddy's Corner is to be subscribed to the podcast. Look up Chuddy's Corner on YouTube, wherever else you get your podcasts. Hit subscribe on every one of those. It's like when you set 4 or 5 alarms, that way you never miss it. You subscribe everywhere, you'll never miss a new episode. But all right, so turning away from the Celtics a little bit for now, we're going to take a look at the conference finals, which are set today. Thunder absolutely thumping the Nuggets. Kind of, I have a theory that because they had 2 days off before this game, right?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that's where the Nuggets things went wrong for the Nuggets because you gave Jokic for now 2 weeks he's been playing basketball basically every other day. So once he got that extra day off, I think he was just kind of like, I really just kind of want to drink beers and hang out with my horses. And then you saw what happened in the game. I didn't see the game. I was outside for most of that. So if Jokic had a great game, then maybe that's a wrong theory. But
he did not.
So I think he woke up the next day ready to play Game 7, and they were like, "No, we have 2 days off." And he was just like, "Well, I guess I'll just crush beers then or something."
Interesting.
So anyway, that series is over.
The theory.
It's Thunder Timberwolves. The Thunder are minus 330 as of now. Timberwolves are plus 265 to win the series. I think there's a little bit of value on the Timberwolves squad there. They've kind of shown themselves to be a little bit of a giant killer, a little bit of legend killers. So what are your thoughts? Let's start with the Western Conference. What are your thoughts on that series? And then afterwards we'll kind of give some predictions. Go ahead.
Sure. Well, I just think, first of all, it's incredible to think that the T-Wolves are the team that has seemed to breeze through these playoffs, only playing 10 games, and they're sitting there plenty of rest and waiting. Well, credit to the Nuggets for pushing that series to 7. Honestly, it's pretty crazy with that skeleton crew. They fell short today. You can tell they kind of hit a wall, ran out of gas. Aaron Gordon, did you see it was diagnosed as a grade 2 hamstring strain?
Some people
You're supposed to miss 6
yeah.
weeks with that. He played and was very noticeably had one leg. Still admirable performance, but I think that's just kind of the point. You've got Aaron Gordon hopping around on one leg. You got Michael Porter Jr. with one arm. Jamal Murray did not come to play at all. And Jokic was completely swarmed. Honestly, it was impressive. It was everything about that OKC defense, throwing bodies at Jokic. They were turning him over, running out, and it was just like a true avalanche that could not be stopped because this game was close. The Nuggets were up 10 early. And then everything just flipped hard. And the Thunder, it was like the dam broke. And for them, this felt like one of those series where it's like, okay, they had to do that, go through that to beat a team like that, to almost really believe in themselves. And now it feels like they broke through it. It's like, all right, now they beat Jokic. They beat the Nuggets today. It all came together. All those guys who you questioned. J-Dub had a huge game. So big for them.
Yeah, shout out. I do want to talk about the other series, but before it is shout out to Aaron Gordon though, because I should have mentioned that. He had 11 rebounds too in that situation. So credit to that guy. That's fucking some gamer shit right there.
Really wild. Really wild.
So all right, but the Nuggets are dead. So the Timberwolves. What can the Timberwolves do here to make this interesting?
So
I think this
is a great series. I get why. Obviously, OKC is minus 330, and that's deserved based on their body of work this season and even in the playoffs, what they've done, whereas the Timberwolves have looked great, but keep in mind they basically just beat a Warriors team with no Steph Curry, which is frankly a pretty bad team. Yeah. And a Lakers team that was, I think, obviously much more hyped up than they probably ever deserved. So the T-Wolves have looked awesome. Some of that might be a result of the teams they've played, at least a little bit, making them look better. But I think there's a strong case to be made that these are the two best teams in the Western Conference. The Timberwolves, since they got healthy, they're, I think, 31-5 in the last 36 games that Julius Randle has played. So when they have their team together, this is just a really, really good team. Randle is playing by far.
It's so deep. It's such a they can play so many guys.
It is, absolutely.
Which OKC is deep too, but
right, but they can match them. That's usually, you saw in this series, for example, that was a huge advantage for OKC and why they beat Denver. You could argue the biggest reason was the depth in the bench play, where Denver got absolutely nothing. That won't be as big an advantage, if it will be an advantage at all, next round, where, again, at this point in the playoffs, you're probably playing 7 or 8 guys at the most. Minnesota has 8 starting caliber guys, so that's not really going to be an advantage at all for either side, which makes it very cool. Also, Minnesota played well against OKC. I think they split 2-2 this year. One of those games was that weird one where OKC was winning by so much, OKC took out their starters and actually walked down the lead with the bench, won in OT, never even put the starters back in. So that was a weird game, but they got a lot of success going zone, which now we've seen other teams do. That was where they went with that too high zone and trapped Shea basically right as soon as he got over the court. Ton of success. We wondered if we'd see that later. Man, this is just going to be an awesome series. I think it weirdly worked out where we actually got the two probably best teams. I think it's a great matchup. Obviously, Ant versus Shea is awesome. One of those two guys going to break through, make their first finals. Great for the league. Great young superstar either way. That'll be a matchup that'll get lots of hype. The battle down lower, you've got Chet and Hartenstein on one side, and you've got Gobert, Brandel, Doss Reed on the other side. And then you've got kind of all the role players, and it's like which side of the kind of 3 and D guys are going to step up? Who's going to hit the shots? Is it going to be the Lou Dort, Caruso, Cason Wallace group of guys? Obviously, J-Dub will play a big role as he's the number 2 guy for OKC. Or is it going to be another big, Jaden McDaniels series, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Mike Conley hanging around? So much going on in this series, so evenly matched. And I think it's going to be which team can kind of stop the other team's main guy. It's going to be interesting. Everyone's tried to do it all season long with both of these guys. We haven't seen it a lot. Minnesota has had some success. I think that, like I said, I think they've earned to be that big of favorites, but I think this is definitely a series that either team can win. I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be an absolute battle. And I'm just really, really excited we got this matchup, which I don't think I would have been saying maybe a month or so ago, but with how awesome Minnesota has played, like they've earned it 100%. There's nothing like fluky about this.
Yeah, I mean, that stat you just said, 30-5 since they got the whole band together. Julius Randle's just been completely kind of next level. It's sort of funny,
Incredible.
He played in LA, he played in New York. He never really kind of could reach his potential in any of those places. It's like, all right, I'll send him to Minneapolis, and now he's just really got a chance. And obviously the teams are different, and that helps him a lot too. But I think he's been the real difference maker for them. Obviously Anthony Edwards is the guy that kind of, drives the team or whatever. But yeah, that Timberwolves team, they're dangerous. Plus 265 too. That's juicy. That's juicy. And I don't think
Really
it's that
good.
crazy to say that could happen.
No. Not at all.
I mean, the Timberwolves, they've knocked off. Didn't they knocked the Nuggets off last year, right?
Yeah.
Like they're certified giant killers. So
Definitely.
I think it's going to be a great series. Again, I think the Thunder's depth has been their big thing, and the Wolves are basically, it's almost like they're built to go against the Thunder in a way, just with what they can drive out there, the double big lineups they can play, that kind of neutralize the stuff that OKC can do on that end of the floor.
Right.
So. It's that is a series that I am very excited for. Do you want to go ahead and give a prediction?
I'm going to go with Thunder in 7. I think it's going to be an awesome series, and I really do think the Wolves can win, but I am going to go with Thunder in 7. I think they figure it out.
All right, I'm going to go Wolves in 7. Then I'll just oppose you. I want the Wolves to win. I don't know if I think they're going to win, but I'm going to pick them to win. If that makes sense. I really want them to win, but if they're gonna, I don't think it's gonna be in 6 games. But would I be shocked if we're, in a couple of days looking at, OKC down 0-1 after that first game? I mean, OKC losing at home too. I don't think you can discount that kind of mental aspect of things too. A place that seemed so hard to beat them at. They've had some struggles in. So
yeah, I do. I think for one, it's interesting where Minnesota has that experience of making it this far last year, and like you said, after beating Denver, everyone felt like, shit, it's their time now, and then they just got completely humbled by Dallas. And it was a different ballgame. So I think
they're more ready
from
for
that. Right, I think exactly. But I also think OKC, same thing. They were the number 1 seed last year. They got punked in the second round. This year, they got over that hurdle, and it does feel like we might look back at that Game 7 they played today against Denver as like a shifting of the tides where they all kind of finally broke through. And I wouldn't be surprised maybe if we see them dominate this series more than expected. And that was like the big moment today where they got over that. And now they're like, okay, we remember who we are.
Mental hurdle.
That defense could absolutely smother Minnesota. They haven't seen anything like that. So it could be really interesting, but I just hope it's an awesome series. I mean, I like both teams, and I think either outcome is great for the NBA.
Yeah. Okay, so on the other end of that, the other end of the bracket, we have the Eastern Conference Finals. Obviously, we know the Knicks and the Pacers too. Knicks minus 145 favorites, Pacers plus 125. Also love the Pacers there. I think that this is my kind of thought on this matchup was similar to what you were just sort of saying about the Timberwolves, where it's like last year they got to the Eastern Conference Finals, they played and they didn't really blink either. Like they got swept by us, but they played a super hard series against us. And I think for them coming into this series, they're kind of like, okay, this is where we got before, and that big bad wolf isn't necessarily there anymore. The team that is there is the Knicks, who I think they match up well against. And I just feel like, and again, I don't follow what the Knicks players are saying or how the Knicks players are acting, but it's like, it feels like to me that Knicks Nation, and this might not include the locker room, feels like they already won their finals. They beat the Celtics. Mm-hmm. They're so happy. They're dancing the streets. They're assaulting Windhorse. They're chasing a Pacers fan down the street and throwing trash barrels at him. I don't know if you saw that video too. it's like it's done. They already did it. They already got a banner flying in MSG just based on that series. So I feel like the Pacers are the ones coming into that kind of like, this is nothing new. This is not what our goal was. We have the biggest challenge to getting over that hump is now out of the way. The Knicks, who they've played well against, I think, are they 2-2 this season against each other? I think it's something like that.
I'm not sure.
I'll look it up.
Season record was, but.
So I that's why I like the Pacers, and I think that again, maybe the Knicks players don't feel this way at all, but when I just follow, what I see online, it just feels like the Knicks are kind of like, we got to the Eastern Conference Finals, like yes,
yeah.
Take a deep breath.
I would say not only that, I'd say that's only half of it, but I also think the other half is they're looking past the Pacers completely. They're already acting like they're in the finals. Like, that's the Knicks fans have already completely dismissed this and be like, oh, we're in the finals. So that's crazy. I think the Knicks, as you said, are a short favorite. That's essentially just the difference in having home court, I would say. Pretty much a coin toss. I like Indiana too, but I think, underestimate New York at your own peril. But, right. I mean, I like the matchup too for the Pacers. Like, the thing is, we always say it's almost like a cliche when you're like, oh, game slows down in the playoffs, blah, blah, blah. Pacers are like defying logic where they don't slow down. It's like somehow they keep this crazy pace going mixed with an awesome defense. They just don't stop. And like, if they can keep doing that again against the Knicks, that's going to be big trouble because the Knicks, as we know, those guys want to play every minute. They want to slow it down. If Karl-Anthony Towns is under the basket complaining about a foul that doesn't get called, that's a layup for the Pacers every time. So if they can keep imposing that will, I just don't really know how the Knicks can last over a 7-game series. All things equal, like that's to me the biggest thing is who's going to be able to kind of dictate the terms of arrangement in this series. And the Pacers were able to do it in both against the Bucks and against the Cavs, no problem. If they can do that to the Knicks are in big trouble. I also think the way that the Pacers play, it's going to be really, really tough for the Knicks on the defensive end of the ball because I just don't know what you do, I guess, with Jalen Brunson. You obviously don't want him on Halliburton. I don't think you want him on Nembhard. That's like just as tough of a matchup. So then he's on probably Nesmith, and Nesmith has been amazing, like running around. He's turned into this almost like Klay Thompson type. So do you want Brunson chasing a guy around screens every single possession in the entire game either? And Nesmith is way bigger, can bully him. You're obviously not going to put him on Siakam, Miles Turner. That's like crazy. So that's going to be tough. It's going to be tough to see how, again, with the single big, you defend like the pick and pop with Miles Turner. He's been amazing. Pascal versus OG, the old Raptors guys going back at it. That should be a great matchup. And then how are you going to guard Brunson? Because as much as we've talked about how awesome Nembhard has been, Brunson basically did whatever he wanted to him last year. So a lot of that is just tough shot making. But we kind of talked about in that Celtics series how Brunson, even good defenders, if he can see over them, it almost doesn't really bother him. He's so strong, his footwork is good. So we were seeing him get a good clean looks nonstop against White and Jrue. I don't think that's going to be a problem against Nembhard. Does Indy adjust and put someone on him like Nesmith, who has more length, bigger body, or even go get crazy, try to show some looks with like Pascal, try to really bother him with size? But they have more options. And again, I think, like we talked about, this is where Indiana beats you with their pace, and they can play that pace because they have so much depth. They have TJ McConnell, an absolute pest coming off the bench. He's going to bother Brunson for 15 minutes a night. You know that. Obi Toppin, same thing, former Knick. He's going to be fired up for this one. Jarris Walker's been giving them some minutes. Benedict Mathurin, we saw him get ejected last round for pushing DeAndre Hunter. So absolutely, like you said, I think they belong. I think they're probably typing up the like disrespect card of the Knicks. Everyone already assuming they're going to play the like nobody wants us in the finals thing, whatever. And I think, yeah, on paper, they match up real well. I think they're confident. They beat them last year. Obviously, there were some injuries involved in that. But I think they're confident they could do it again, and I think there's no reason to think that they can't.
Yeah, I did look it up. They were Knicks won twice this year. Pacers won once. One of those, the most recent Knicks win, Pacers didn't have Miles Turner, so and a couple of those other games, Knicks didn't have play. So it's like they really haven't played each other at full strength. So this will be it's a throw out the record book type matchup here.
Nice.
It's a great old school matchup too. This is going to be I think a really fun series for a lot of the reasons that you just said. It's going to be a good, fast-paced movie series. I do, because I feel like me and you are kind of doing what we did last series with the Knicks, where we're both sort of like, I don't see how the Knicks can do it. So I am just to avoid us being clipped by Knicks fans again. This Knicks team is super dangerous. They're super good. They could still get this series, no doubt.
For sure.
That was just me giving just a clip, just in case anyone says I was counting out the Knicks fans.
But they can. Like I
players.
mentioned, they don't have a great matchup for Brunson. We just saw firsthand how good Brunson can be. And if they can't get that under control, they're in trouble. And again, the Pacers have made it look so easy, but we'll see now against the way Tibbs has that team playing defense with Anunoby standing people up, Bridges, bringing in Mitchell Robinson. Can he change the game the way he did? Because Indies, they're not huge like that. They're not built to battle down low. Miles Turner, he'd rather play on the perimeter as a center. So can they kind of impose their will on the Pacers? Can they slow them down? And that's, to me, that whole offensive rebounding thing is another thing to watch, because that's twofold. If the Knicks can crash the offensive glass, that's a way they can really hurt Indiana. That the Pacers don't have a lot of
those second chance points, yeah.
But
and they're not in the. I'm sorry.
I think we're going to say the same thing, but as I was saying, that's the risk of it. Whereas, is New York willing to let guys like Josh Hart go crash the offensive glass when you know that Indiana is going to get up and fast break every single time? Like, I'm not sure you can commit. Like we saw against the Celtics, they were sending 4 guys at the glass because we were just walking the ball up no matter what. The Pacers, you cannot do that. So it's going to be that balance, and it's going to be those little games within the game where it's like who's going to blink first and make the other team change from the way they want to play. And I think that's the next path to victory, where if they can take the Pacers away from playing that fast-paced game up and down the floor, they have to adjust, get back, focus on just getting stops and rebounds, then suddenly they're in trouble, and then it slows down, and then that's a game where Brunson can take over with some good matchups.
Yeah. It's going to be a good one. I'm honestly think I'm cooking up a little underdog parlay in both these series prices.
Love it.
Call me a madman. They said he was a madman.
He's mad.
But yeah, I'm excited. So what is Tuesday night, the Western Conference starts, Wednesday, the Eastern Conference?
Yeah.
Those dates, right?
A lot of rest for basically the Thunder.
Yeah, I was going to say, not really for the Thunder.
But they should need it the least.
That's true. Youngest team in the league.
Young, deep, right. No travel. No complaints. I don't want to hear it.
Yeah. I'm not yet. Don't want to hear it. All right. We'll be back. Like I said, we're going to do a preview. What's that?
We got to pick it.
Oh, pick the series? Oh,
yeah. We didn't do predictions, did we?
No, we didn't. I did say I was going to pick the Pacers in that.
I guess
so, yeah,
true.
I'm going to take Pacers in 6.
I'm going same. Pacers in 6. I think they close it out at home.
All right. Same page there. All right. Same team on that one. All right. So make sure you're subscribed to the podcast because, like I said, we're going to have a new episode out. Definitely one before the finals, and then a few more throughout the offseason. We're going to kind of get that schedule settled. What am I forgetting to?
We got to rank them for Celtics, who the Celtics should want to win.
Hey.
Come on. It should be in the notes.
It's never a bad time to plug the podcast. So I wasn't trying to end the show. All right. Do you want to just give our... Go ahead.
I'll go from 4th to 1st in terms of if you're a Celtics fan and you can't decide, here's the argument for each team. So 4th, the last team by far in a tier by themselves is the Knicks. Just don't want the Knicks to win.
Agreed.
Anyone but the Knicks, I think, will be happy. Don't really need to get into it. Obvious reasons. Just fuck them. 3rd, I'm actually going to go with the Timberwolves. I like them very much, but just for Celtics arguments, I feel like Ant and Tatum have that kind of weird little rivalry like that. Timberwolves gave us trouble last year. They were trying to build around their 2 wings. They could be a threat. I don't know. A-Rod, fuck him, still from New York-Boston rivalry.
Good call.
So, again, still like the Timberwolves. I like the last 3 teams, but that would be my argument there. Number 2, OKC. Actually, I think people may be wondering, whoa, why would I want OKC more? I think for OKC winning would be good for the Celtics winning last year in that sense of kind of doing it the right way, building up, without just unethically doing it, getting to the top, and then going through this historical regular season where they were the best team all year, but everyone wanted to poke holes with them, basically just for the same reason we saw with the Celtics last year of well, they haven't done it. And then doing it would kind of cement it all and give you purpose of okay, this isn't just some random fucking tournament and the regular season does mean something, would kind of make me feel better about we did it right. We just kind of got some bad luck this year. Okay. I think it'd be worthy. And then number 1 with a bullet, obviously the Pacers, which I just think would be awesome. Because everyone's shitting on the East. So it'd be nice to be see, this East team that everyone thinks sucks isn't even the best team in the East, still won it all against the vaunted West. Also would make us a little nicer, I think, as the years pass, looking back on last year's championship when things line up historically, being oh, we did sweep the Pacers and en route to our title, a team that won it all the following year. It's not nothing. Basically the
toughest
same
sweep going.
Right, so that'd be kind of cool in that sense. And I think it would just set up, too, for the future of the NBA of suddenly Indiana's on the map. It's nobody's even mentioning them as these teams of the future where second conference finals in a row already, could easily make the finals, could realistically win the finals. Suddenly, again, everyone's talking about the East is such a joke. The last two finalists would be from the East. Maybe we get this little thing going forward with the Celtics and Pacers. Indiana, birthplace of basketball, all that, small market, great fans. Just think that would be awesome for the basketball and for the Celtics, one of the East teams I would tolerate. But again, more than thrilled with any of those top three teams winning.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty much, my order is essentially the same as yours. I guess I would flip flop a little bit on the Timberwolves and OKC. OKC
Fair.
just because it's like that's a team that they could be like for real. Like I could see them being right back next year, and then you start to have like different dynasty
cool.
kind of watch thing going on. So I might maybe put the Timberwolves a little bit before them because I'm not sure that they're like team I'm worried about. And again, not saying that they can't, but they're still good, but being like over and over.
One other thing I forgot to mention too, because I did shit on the T-Wolves for the A-Rod connection. Due respect, OKC, Presti, and Dagnall, GM and head coach, both New England guys, local guys, grew up Celtics fans. Kind of cool to root for them in that sense. And also, when you're just purely rooting, I think you still have to, obviously, you can adjust to this with your rooting interest in real time. But just going in not knowing anything that's going to happen, I think you'd like your chances better with the Thunder. Just in case the Knicks do win, it's like, all right, I have more faith in the Thunder.
True,
the home court advantage. Like the Knicks would have home court advantage against the T-Wolves in the finals. It's a little risky.
Yeah.
And then it sets up that narrative of like that from the trade with like Cat. So it's like, a little too
as I was saying,
yes.
As I was saying, I don't know if I want to put the Timberwolves ahead of there because I do just feel like Anthony Edwards is just kind of a fucking dick. Like, and I used to kind of be a big kind of Ant fan, and I get that, the ladies of the night that circle around NBA players like are probably not fully on the up and up. Like their intentions probably aren't the purest either. But the paying the whole 18 years up front thing still just kind of is like, that's so fucked.
Yeah.
So it's a tough sell. But there is so many other players on the team that I like that I feel like it almost like starts to chip away at like,
definitely
what I think of Ant because there's just so many other guys in that team that I like.
I still like Ant overall as a player. Like
I like him as a player. He's a very exciting player to watch, but that is just, and again, he's young, whatever.
Has to be a better way to handle it. Got to get some PR. Yeah. Like I'm sure lots of players like that do questionable things, but that should be a pretty easy way to handle it. That doesn't make it look this bad that we all know about it and have no choice but to
right. So that would be my only reason why I think I'd still probably keep okay. I was gonna maybe switch the orders around because I didn't want to set the same order, but it is what it is. We both just no ball, I guess, or we'll see. That's at least
what it comes down to.
Okay. Is there anything else? Before I wrap this up.
I think that was the last thing we had. That was important to get in, though, before the series started on Tuesday.
Shout out Mario's Roofing. Shout out Nick Perino Real Estate. Again, love the sponsors. Chuddy Heads will be with you all season. Subscribe to the podcast on YouTube, anywhere else you get your podcasts. Give it a like. Follow us on social media. We're at Chuddy's Corner on Twitter. He's at King Chuddy. I'm at Doug_outs. It has been a wonderful season. We fell short of our goal on the Celtics side of things, but I think Chuddy's Corner as a pod, been a great season for the guys, for everybody, everyone that helps us out behind the scenes, all those things like that. So special thanks to everybody. Even though we'll be with you all off season, it is important to say thank you to the Chuddy Heads that are listening. We've got a lot more followers, a lot of new followers, a lot of new listeners. The live streams during the playoffs, we were getting a lot of good traction there. So we do appreciate all of that. Want to take a moment to thank everybody for that. Thank the sponsors. Thank you, Chuddy, and everyone. Take care.
Peace out, Chuddy Heads.